Good afternoon. It's great to see so many of you here in person today. And we have so many colleagues joining us online as well. And they're still joining us online, so you might keep hearing that dreaded dinging in the background. This is our last open meeting for professional services colleagues and other colleagues of this year. It's been a very busy year. It's been a very productive year. We launched our strategy on Foundation Day to, I think, generally very, very positive feedback and general acclaim. And it'll be good to hear a bit from you about that as well today. That was a big moment in our year. As Duncan said, in many ways, the development and the launch of the strategy is the easy bit. We now move into the implementation phase, and we're going to talk about a bit about that today. We've also launched our campaign, and those of you who were in University Place or had the opportunity to watch it online or watch it back online, it was a fantastic event. Unique and very much in the spirit of the Manchester way of doing things differently. It was really a great launch and harbours really positive things for our campaign and the role that philanthropy can and hopefully will play in our future. And huge shout out to colleagues involved in the launch of the campaign, particularly colleagues in DDAR. Today we're going to continue the conversation we started in July around service excellence. The strategy consultation told us really clearly that if we're going to achieve our ambitions, we need to be organised for success. We need to tackle the issues with our systems and our processes and our ways of doing things that have been long-standing, actually. We're not unique in the sector, but we certainly have our own particular way of doing things. And so we're going to talk about service excellence and service improvement today, and my panel of colleagues will join me in a moment to talk about examples of what we're already doing, but also talk about what we need to do in the future. And I really want to hear from you as well in the room and online. Share with us your examples of things that you believe are good and we should be replicating elsewhere. Tell us about the things you think we should be improving and how we can go about improving them. And I've got lots of colleagues here as well from my professional services leadership team here in the room who can answer your questions as well. So we've discovered that if we sit down on the chairs as a panel, you will not be able to see us. So we're going to do something novel and we're going to stand up, if that's okay with all of you. So if the panel would like to join me up here, and I'll ask you to introduce yourselves. Okay, should we start at the end?
I'm going to perch. And first of all, so I'm Craig Best. I'm the Director of Student and Academic Services in the Directorate of the Student Experience.
Hi, I'm Beth Wilson, and I'm the Senior Continuous Improvement Manager within the Strategic Change Office.
I'm Thomas Schmidt, and I'm the head of the School of Arts, Languages and Cultures and a professor of music.
And Thomas, you're on our Service Excellence Operations group indeed, as well, yes, and playing a really crucial role in helping us develop our approach to service excellence right across professional services. Okay, so we've got 3 topic areas we're going to discuss as a panel, and then we want to open it up to all of you in the room and online as well. So let's start with the obvious question, which is why do we need to improve our services? Craig, would you like to lead us off?
Absolutely. So I think improving services is absolutely essential. We need to be in that mindset of continuous improvement, looking to the future. And I think importantly, when you look at the 2035 strategy, it talks about this new kind of student experience. And I think most of us in the room and online can feel that a lot of our practices can cause friction. And I think it's important that we enable the movement away from friction between services and systems, connect our systems so it's easy to see what data we have, and really focus on the value-added activities with our community. And more broadly, the whole sector's doing this, so it's absolutely vital from a competitive point of view for us to look at where we want to be as an organisation. It focuses on areas such as inclusivity and some of our registration requirements with the Office for Students. So fundamentally, from my view, it is absolutely should be at the heart of what we as individuals do and as an institution. We all expect this out in our everyday lives, so why can't we expect it within our own organisation?
Great, thank you. Beth?
So I think you've put it really well there, Craig, in terms of, I feel like everywhere I go across the university, I see people who are frustrated with the way that things are being done currently, with the systems that they have access to, with the way in which they've been taught or told to complete their work, and feeling like in many circumstances they're working with one hand tied behind their back because of the constraints that they have. So often those people are the ones with the best ideas of how to resolve these issues, and that's what continuous improvement is all about. It's about empowering people at every level to say, you do this job every single day, you'll have a really good insight into what will work and what doesn't work. Let's empower you, let's give you the skills and the tools to be able to enact those sort of small incremental changes that ultimately add up to big service improvements.
Yeah, how to follow that? I mean, I think you both have said so many things I would have said already. It's I think that there's real will to change, there's real will to improve amongst the PS teams. I see that everywhere. I mean, I hardly ever go anywhere and get, yeah, no, we're all right, don't worry about it, go away. That really isn't the mindset, and I think that's actually hugely heartening, and there's some things we're doing already really well. I think one of the things, and that speaks really to Duncan's idea of one university. I mean, this is a university that partly as a function of its size and sort of pragmatic reasons, has tended to work in silos. There's sort of finance here, there's people here, there's even within there's sort of research finance and there's other finance. So the idea that, I think that to me is perhaps the biggest improvement. I know that's already, I mean, with future foundations and with all the other things. And if we want to be that university for the 21st century, the university that takes us to 2035. I think we need that collaborative mindset. And I know that's there. I think that people don't want to work in silos normally. Maybe some do, but I mean, most of the time it's not. It's just sort of a pragmatic function of how things are set up. It's not because people don't want to do it. And working in partnership also externally, but I think that also gets us to the second theme of the, so I'll leave that for later interventions.
I mean, we talk about service improvement and very often think about fixing things, but there are opportunities for us to embrace new technologies, new ways of doing things, that makes this a really exciting agenda.
It does, and I think there's, we talk about, and I talk about friction, and I think my everyday world is about friction between different things, but I think it's about the individuals caring, and it's caring about how we work with each other, caring about our students, caring about our community, and one of those terms I've read, technology is only 10%, it's 90% culture and behaviours, and I think service excellence to me embodies the importance of us looking about how can we continuously improve ourselves, but also the community that we are part of.
Yeah, and Ellie, and I think I saw Sonal come into the room, that point about improving ourselves, there are real opportunities for us to help all of our colleagues develop the skills to enable them to take the opportunities that come through new technology developments. There's some fear around AI. Will AI take jobs away? I think the reality is AI will do away with jobs, but it will also create new jobs, new opportunities. And I think one of our commitments is to provide the development opportunities, the training opportunities for colleagues right across the university to be able to grasp those opportunities as they come down the line. Shall we move on to our second topic, which is how will service improvements enable our new strategy?
Do you want me to start?
I went first last time.
We'll move along the line.
Don't rush out
you
at
can
once.
go second.
Okay. So whose turn is it then? Okay, I mean, that really picks up to where I stopped a minute ago. And to me, what really, in a nutshell, Manchester 2035 is about working in partnership. And is about working in partnership within the institution, but also beyond the institution. And again, so probably as a function of size, I mean, this, in parts at least, I mean, this has been a very inward-looking institution. And we're not actually, and even where processes within, and service excellence works within the institution, where I think we have a ways to go working with external partners, whether that's sort of paying sort of 50 quid to a freelancer who comes in sort of for a dozen hours of work in a seminar somewhere, whether that's about the whole digitally enabled strategy in terms of setting up sort of CPD programs, stackable programs. We have, I think that there are huge opportunities there, but there's, in terms of the systems and processes that we've got, I don't think we're there yet. I mean, in terms of setting up, say, a stackable degree where somebody does 10 credits in 1 year and then 15 credits in the next and 20 in the next, can we actually charge students by the credit? I don't think we can. Have we got the online resources that can actually facilitate it? We have Canvas, which has huge potential, but can we develop this in a way that students will want to engage with us? Mature students, employers, external partners. Have we got the know-how and the structures to set up these degrees in terms of QSD, in terms of quality assurance? There's so much out there that's I think is really exciting, and it's also really important to make the university financially sustainable over the next 10, 20 years. But I think there's enough talent, I think, in this university to do that. But that, to me, is the biggest journey I think we have to take, and that's where service excellence and just making sure that we engage with bodies, individuals, institutions outside the university in a way that they will look at the university. Yeah, they really know their stuff.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Beth?
So I think we can all agree that we've got some really exciting and challenging strategic goals that we're working towards. And without making improvements to the way that we currently do things, we're just not going to be able to achieve them. Some of those improvements will need to be made through big sort of strategic projects, but there is so much that can be done through incremental change, and that sort of mindset and behavioral change that Craig's alluded to is a huge part of that. And that's really what kind of is fundamentally a part of continuous improvement, is having that mindset around incremental change, empowering people to say, what have you seen that's broken, and how can you be empowered to actually enact change and make something just a little bit better? If everyone is making things just that little bit better over time, we will reach perfection. We might not reach it in one leap. It may take us 30 small steps, but it will be substantially better than where we've been, and we'll be able to do that within the scope of the resource and the capacity that we already have, rather than having to kind of step away, down tools, damage that sort of level of service we might be trying to maintain in order to make a big change. How can we actually take the time to make those small incremental changes that do enable larger strategic gains by empowering our colleagues across the entire university at every level?
I'd absolutely agree with you. And when I talk about service excellence, my first response is, what on earth is service excellence? Is it another strapline? Is it another word that we're using? And then I thought about, where's the ownership? Where's the accountability? And I think with the strategy, I could talk about enabling flexible and personalized learning. But again, what's my role in that? And I think the incremental piece, the kind of what can I do on my day-to-day to give me space to think and innovate, is really, really important. Because if we don't do that, then we're not going to be able to enable flexible and personalized learning. We're not going to be able to consider ourselves digital inside and out, because all we're doing is keeping our heads down. And I think it's having the confidence as an institution to say we're committed to excellence in what we do, and how do I as an individual enable that, and what reputation do I want our community and organization to have externally. Because to enable growth, we've got to be confident about who we are and where we're going. So yeah, I think it's playing on about what's the individual accountability this, and enabling accountability, not suddenly becoming overly hierarchical, but that doesn't mean we don't make clear decisions on what we do and what we don't do, because we can't do everything. And I think that's really scary.
And one of our pre-submitted questions was around if everybody's engaged with change, are we going to create instability and fall over? I think that's a really good question to ask. And we've heard Duncan talk about being really concerned that in now moving into the implementation phase of our strategy, that we don't suddenly try and do everything all at once. And then in 12 months' time, 18 months' time, all of a sudden, we all fall over and we say, well, God, we just can't do another thing. So we are really conscious that we need to think about this in 3-year work packages and be really purposeful and deliberate about what things we're going to prioritize, and think about the interdependencies about all those projects that we'll undertake in the years to come, and make sure that we don't get ourselves into that place where we're simply trying to do too many things at one time. You know, that's a lesson that we've learned and others have learned as well in the past. It's a challenge, of course, because everybody wants their project. You know, you look at all of the 31 commitments in our leaps and foundations. There are a lot of priorities in there, and therefore we need to put them in order of priority as well, and make sure that the work that we undertake is manageable in the years to come.
And getting the foundations right. We talked about one university, and it's not playing lip service to the phrase one university. It's actually, there's 31 or 76 priorities. But if we break them down, there's some fundamental drivers in all of those. And I think it's us taking a step back, looking at that and saying, actually, these are some of the core foundations that will help accelerate, move us forward to do that. And a bit about the change, anecdotally, I talk about we all change our clothes every day, but we don't change our wardrobes every day. And that's a bit, don't chuck out all of your wardrobe just because we're going through a piece of change. But eventually we outgrow or get bigger.
Some of us don't change out.
Try not to make eye contact. And I think that's a good thing I talk about. You know, our incremental steps is about changing our socks every day or changing our shirts, but we don't need to chuck the whole wardrobe out. But we might do, and that's okay, but it's not going to be overnight.
Okay.
But I think we shouldn't forget that there's lots of things we're pretty good at already, and there's lots of things that will remain our bread and butter for the foreseeable future. I mean, we're not going to abandon sort of fairly sort of bog standard classroom teaching or lab-based teaching. So that's still, and I think I think people also shouldn't be worried. I hope they shouldn't be worried about no, your job's going to be completely different from next week onwards. So I think incremental change is important, and I think that's where the Service Excellence Group is going to be really powerful. Just being clear about, okay, these are the things that we are prioritizing, this is why we're prioritizing them, this is how long it's going to take, and then sort of be accountable for delivering that. Because and then also being able to sort of, and that comes back to what you say about a narrative of sort of why we're doing some things first and other things later. It's then how these different change projects interact with each other. So being very clear, okay, we need to do A before B can happen. And that's why we're doing A first. Yeah. Even though sort of people may not even only be vaguely aware of the existence of A, much less its importance. And they always say, no, we need to do B, and we need to do it now. Yeah. So I think and that comes back to the foundation, it comes back to understanding, what also, again, in terms of financial sustainability, what we need to do quickly, because otherwise, currently a very financially healthy institution will eventually fall over, and what are the kind of things that we need to take more time over?
One of the reactions to the strategy since it was launched has been that colleagues have said, well, where's the detail? You know, where's the plan? What's the next step? And for me, one thing that's different about this strategy is that we've got our commitments, our 31 commitments, but we haven't worked out how to achieve them. What we said clearly is that we will work on this together across the university. And that's quite a big commitment and quite a big undertaking. But I think this is the thing that will distinguish our strategy from others and give it the best chance of success. And one way in which we're doing that differently now is the implementation conference that Ellie and colleagues are developing for January, where we'll bring over 200 leaders from right across the university into one place and start to work together on the plan for implementing our strategy and our commitments. That's one university in real time, which for me is hugely exciting. And you know, in a university of this scale, with the range and diversity of skills and expertise and capabilities that we have, the opportunity to make more than the sum of those parts is enormous. And that for me is one of the things that I'm really looking forward to in the months to come. But should we move on to the next topic, Beth, and Thomas said that there are good things already happening. Let's talk about some of the examples of what's already happening that we can share with colleagues.
Yes, absolutely. So a number of examples from continuous improvement specifically. A lot of our focus over the last year, so the team's only existed for a year, has been around workload reduction. And again, so often we go across the university and we see people with just workloads that have become unmanageable, really struggling to keep up and struggling to be able to provide that excellent service that ideally they would like to. So we've been focusing on understanding who are the users in this, who is this process serving? Are we meeting their expectations? Do we know their expectations? If not, can we define those? And how can we actually align the way that we do things with meeting those expectations? So much of our work has developed slowly over decades potentially, and things have gone unquestioned over that period of time. So we're still doing things the same way we've done them for 10, 15, even longer years. There's so many opportunities now with the new technology, the systems that we have access to make those small improvements that actually really do reduce the amount of work overall. So specific examples, within the Strategic Change Office, we had a review of our project management office function. So all of our kind of tools and templates and reporting support for our project managers and change managers. And we were able to reduce the amount of work by about 1,000 hours a year just by looking at what we were asking people to complete and identifying the volume of duplication that was happening. So we're not just asking you to give us this information or report on this once, we're asking you to do it 6, 7, 20 times. So let's try and find our way of just doing it once, and we can reduce workload there. Let's question, are we producing this report for any purpose? Perhaps 5 years ago we needed to. In fact, you're laughing shows that this is just...
Maybe.
Yep. We may have needed to do it once, but do we need to do it every single month? Probably not. And it's being able to take that opportunity to take a step back, have that kind of objective review of what are we doing, who is this serving, and do they still need this from us? And if they don't, let's stop doing it. So over 1,000 hours saved there. We saved nearly 550 hours within people services, working with them around fixed term contract notifications, working closely with the operations teams across all of the faculties as well, making sure that we weren't doing change in isolation, but bringing everybody on board and working together. And not only did we reduce that workload by nearly 550 hours annually, but also managed to reduce the volume of emails being sent by over 3,100 a year. We can also assume there's at least 3,100 fewer emails coming back in as well. So every email we send out, we get at least one response.
So why are you sending me this email?
Exactly. Most of those are that. And then why haven't you replied? And why haven't you replied to this? Because we're drowning in emails. So by being able to challenge these things, we've really reduced things there. We've also made some FTE savings within our Justice Hub, supporting members of the public getting legal advice from us. And there's a piece of work delivering early next year, which is supporting improving the payment process for members of the public who participate in studies with us, generally medical studies. Could be a one-off forum, it could be an extended clinical study you're participating in for years. The way that we've been remunerating these people has been terribly broken. Some people not seeing a payment for a year or more. We've digitized that whole process. So again, huge workload reduction there for us internally, and a massively improved experience for members of the public who are trying to work with us, because now we can actually do what we say we'll do. We'll actually be able to remunerate you for your time within a reasonable time frame.
Great, thank you. Thomas?
Yeah, things that have gone well. The obvious one that comes to mind is Canvas. It's because I mean, I'm speaking from talking to fellow academics. Everybody was expecting for it to be a challenge. People were, because I think academics in this university have become very cynical about large technology-driven change projects, and that is partly born from painful experience. So that's, and I think, and Canvas everybody, the students say nice things about it, staff say nice things about it. The fact that we can actually make changes within Canvas has been sort of acknowledged and has been hugely successful. I mean, of course, we had a head start because Blackboard was universally detested. So it was in that sense, Canvas had a head start because it's like it can't possibly be any worse, surely. But it was actually, and it was the comms around. I mean, the comms work around Canvas was, I mean, it was enormous, and people started to say, surely, I mean, you're probably overdoing this, but no, I don't think we did overdo it. It was necessary, and people felt that they were sort of taking along the journey. And so this university can do large technology-driven change projects. So that's hugely encouraging, because there's going to be a lot more technology-driven large change projects either heading down the track or already, like Future Foundations, underway. So I think and if we can get a couple of more of those right, I mean, that may actually restore also academics' confidence in this university actually knowing what it's doing as far as technology goes. And I have PJ, of course, directly in my line of sight. PJ and I have history. So, but I mean, even sort of very quickly with, I mean, IT services doesn't mean that sort of everything's fixed, but it means we now have a functioning service of logging issues, and people have confidence that that things actually will get fixed to the best of their abilities. And that may only be that sort of the tech who's sitting there and, no, we're terribly sorry. I mean, there's actually no solution to this that will satisfy you, but this is the best we can do. And that's more helpful than them saying that, yeah, we can fix this, and they're not doing it. So accountability, honesty, comms, I think that's, and those are the two things I can immediately think of. And if we can take that sort of as a model for the future, I think we're on a good track.
That's really good. Thank you. Craig, teaching and learning?
And from picking up on that one, I think the word confidence, you know, when we talk about service excellence, it strikes me as that everything has to be perfect from day one. And I absolutely agree with Canvas. It's hit the ground running, it's worked. But we can't be afraid of making incremental change and getting it wrong. And there are lots in the teaching and learning and student spaces that may receive quite a lot of critique and challenge. And what I'm keen for us is that we build on the successes or things that we've done really well. And I'm conscious I've got someone in the room, Lindsay Ban, who leads our volunteering work within the UK and internationally. We're building on that exceptional success in volunteering in our partner-enabled learning and working with the community. So I think it's building on things that may be small at this point, but we can excel. Other examples are the student hubs. How many of us in the room thought the student hubs weren't going to work when we launched them? They've not been perfect. I don't think anyone can say they've hit the ground running, but what we've seen is incremental changes, the way people work together, talking about service catalogues, talking about how we connect people, the training and development. So part of me says service excellence is incremental, and it's about development in time. People may not be ready to see where 5 years comes, but they can go on that road. We talk about assessment and progression in FSC. There was a big piece of work done over the last 2 years to look at how we do assessment and progression in the faculty and the school, and streamlining consistency. You know, if we talked about standardization, that scares people, but actually seeing benefit is really, really important there. And I think finally, my other observations on the teaching and learning is we're moving forward with connecting systems and data. You know, there's this whole raft of data that comes into our institution, either through engagement or attendance or students' preferences, through registration, admissions. And we're now slowly working through about how do we see that data as one big ecosystem and how do we utilize it. You know, we've improved our right to study checks for our international students. That is a huge win, but not everybody sees that. So I think sometimes those big wins can be really small incremental ones, and having confidence in people is really, really important, because they're the ones, as you were saying, Beth, are going to build up the future for us.
Yeah, certainly. I remember back to the time when we had lots of students queuing for very long periods of time in order to comply with the checks, the on-campus checks. I mean, that's only what, two to 3 years ago, and that was really uncomfortable for everybody, actually.
And it's about asking ourselves is what is the experience that we want our students, our colleagues, ourselves to have, and really challenge ourselves. I do think as an institution, sometimes we've avoided the difficult questions, and I think we need to head off those at the moment. Some of that real change is tackling our data infrastructure, and poor old PJ's fourth lying down and everybody's making eye. But I think, testament to IT and the challenges they've had is they've held nerve, they've committed to making change, and we're seeing that progress. And I think it's about not derailing ourselves sometimes or chucking the baby out with the bathwater, for example. And I think that's a really important thing as we head into the next phase of the strategy.
Okay, great. I'm going to open it up to you in the room and online in a moment. So please be thinking about what questions or contributions you want to make. But I guess the final topic is like, what's next? We're moving into the implementation phase of our strategy. We want all of you to think about what does Organised for Success looks like. What's your role in that? We'll be launching the delivery handbook that's going to help set some principles about how we go about change in our university in the future. And some of that's already reflected in Canvas and some other more recent projects. So do look out for that and spend some time reading it and understanding the principles that are in there to help all of us as leaders think about the way in which we lead and deliver change in the university. That's going to be incredibly important to many of the issues we've already touched on so far. So the ask of you is to go away and talk about this in your teams. Think about your role, your team's role, how Beth and her colleagues in continuous improvement and the strategic change office can help you as well in pursuing incremental improvements right across our professional services. Okay, let's pause. Siobhan, good afternoon.
Picking up on your leadership.
Siobhan, would you mind waiting for, if you'd wait for the mic so the colleagues online can hear the question as well, then I won't need to repeat it.
Sorry, I'll be quick because I do speak too much. But a key was around confidence, and you talked about leadership. And Craig knows my comment, but I do think it's fundamental. There are a lot of managers. There are not so many good leaders. And I think if you get that right, you'll elevate the whole culture.
Yeah, completely agree. And that leadership extends right across the university, all of our colleagues working together properly in partnership. And something that we've kind of touched on, but is also crucial to how we want to do change in future, and that's to be user-centric. And lots of different ways of describing that. Some colleagues would even talk about customers. But it's about thinking about our services and what we do and how we do it through the eyes of those that we're delivering that service to, providing that service for. And if you think through their eyes, if that's not mixing up analogies, it will transform the way you think about what you do. We don't exist just for ourselves. We exist for our students, for our stakeholders, for our partners. And thinking about what we do through their eyes will really help us think differently about what we do and the way in which we do it.
Yeah, and I think in addition, it's asking ourselves, how can we enable them to be at the table of those conversations? Yeah. So when we sit in a room and we realize we're talking about inclusivity, for example, and we don't feel that there's a representative, why it's okay to stop and say, hang on a minute, yes, I can think I know enough, but let's bring those people to the table. And we talk heavily about students and making sure they're co-creators, but also it's our staff as well. And
we have that expertise within our university. So Sarah Dyer has worked with us on a whole range of projects. She works with PJ, she worked on Canvas to help us thinking about human-centered design. Even on our university executive, Sarah Sharples, who's our new dean and vice president for Faculty of Science and Engineering, human-centered design is her core academic expertise. And so even she's shifting that conversation and focus within the UE table. So if we can translate that across all of our leadership teams, it'll make a really positive impact.
I think picking up sort of on the leaders, not managers, a lot of it, and that sort of cuts across the entire university, is accountability. So say taking responsibility for your actions within your team. And I think that comes back to something that Craig said about also, we're not going to get everything right. And so accountability doesn't mean you have to, everything has to be perfect in the first go, because it will never be. And that brings me to something that I think the strategy is is quite powerful and potentially, which is about risk appetite, which is about, okay, we're going to do, this is, we're going to the unknown to a very substantial degree here, and it's not all going to work. And this university, I mean, I've worked here since 2012, is unbelievably risk averse historically, or certainly the way I've experienced it. So it's the university that is sort of, seems to be very afraid to sort of, so taking a leap into the unknown, and we're going to have to do that. And I mean, it's not like that this risk aversion has uniformly led to sort of everything going right. So it's almost it's almost not what we can gain by being taking more risk is actually far outstrips what we've gained by being risk averse, I think. But that's hard. It's because people, I mean, they. Because accountability and risk averse and willingness to take risk is, of course, that's a tricky balance.
Well, so we as leaders, though, can help give colleagues permission to try things and to fail and to learn from it and to move on. And then we're all in it together, aren't we?
Yeah. Fair enough.
Beth?
I think that the learnings from not getting something quite right are often the most valuable thing that you can get versus getting it perfect immediately. You'll probably learn significantly more from trying something out and it not going quite the way you planned than you would if it went absolutely to plan the first time round. Those learnings are so crucial to us and to be able to kind of build more and develop on for the future. I think we are doing ourselves a disservice almost with this risk-averse attitude, which I completely agree. I see that everywhere as well. It's a big mindset shift required to go from where we are now to where we're going to get to. And hopefully some of that will be supported with our fantastic talent development team. I'm working closely with them to see how can we get relevant information on service excellence and continuous improvement into our core into our core learning for colleagues, into our core courses, and into those leadership courses as well. Actually, what do you need to know to enable improvements in your area and to embrace a more open attitude towards trying things out and having a go?
Excellent.
And it goes back to the word transparency. We get things wrong. It's okay to apologise. It's not great to double down. And I think it's understanding the why. You know, as a leader, you've got to be committed to the why. We've got to feel the strategy is our strategy. You know, we talk to people on the ground every single day. I'm too busy. I can't be doing this. This is another thing I have to worry about. What's this? What does this look like? And instead of saying, well, you've just got to do it, it's actually taking time to meet them wherever they are and understanding what the small benefits will happen for them. And I think that's the big change we need to have. We are a level risk adverse, but we also feel that we're under a lot of pressure. And getting things wrong isn't something we all naturally feel comfortable with. We feel very exposed, and we've got to have a clear leadership saying it is okay, and this is the right way forward.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, shall we move on to the next question?
Hi.
Hello.
School ops manager in the business school. I ran a session with my team about the following the launch of the campaign and the strategy. And they're really excited about future foundations, and that's been mentioned quite a lot in passing by the panel today. Just interested to know, because they're all starting to sort of gather and collate their pain points at the coalface.
Yeah.
We've got a group of colleagues who are the more junior in the institution, but have had lots of experience being at that coalface. Would be really interesting and good news to go back to them to say that there is a plan to speak to them as part of that future foundations, because their experience of change today has been quite having things done to them. Lots of conversations happen at different parts of the university, and it's that their input is a little bit too late, and workarounds have to be implemented. And so it'd be a joy to go back to them to say, you know, these pain points that you're collecting, they're going to be used, they're going to be integrated at an early stage.
So Carol and Ellie are here at the front of the room. Carol, do you want to say something about
Go for it.
what amazing things Future Foundation is going to deliver?
We're trying. Okay, so Future Foundations is very early stages. We just got through the first Imagines phase where we're just trying to work out some of those pain points. So there was a lot of workshops last summer involving an awful lot of people across the organisation, but we've also got a whole change team as part of Future Foundations who are doing exactly what you just asked for, which is trying to understand how it works in practice, trying to work out then working with all the teams across the organisation to say, let's understand what your pain points are now, and let's see what that's going to look like with the new designs. Now, what we can't do, and I'll be honest here, is go around every single person and understand every single person's individual point of pain. But what we can do is get views across all the school ops from all different areas. So we're very keen to make sure we do that, and we've got a whole change team who have started to build up that. Starting to build up in numbers and be able to go around. So we'll make sure they come to AMBS anytime. And don't worry about it. It's what we're trying to make sure we speak to the people who are dealing with the processes, which generally is not the managers at all. It's usually the people who are dealing with the processes who understand what difficulties they're struggling with. So we will make sure AMBS is included. And if anyone else has got a team burning with ideas and desperately want to offload stuff, please can you just drop us a line, drop the Future Foundations team a line, and we'll make sure we pick it up with you. Okay?
Okay, I think Catherine wants to contribute to this as well. Thanks, Catherine.
Thanks, Carol. Hi, I'm Catherine Grills, Exec Director of Operations for FSC. So I sit on the Exec Steering Group for Future Foundations with an ops hat on. But just to add to what Carol has said, I'd like to reassure colleagues working in school operations. We've been having some conversations recently with Patrick and recognise these teams are doing a really critical role and see how services right across professional services intersect at the school and departmental level and provide a lot of the activities that take place within school ops don't necessarily have some of the visibility and the understanding for us as an organisation as they should at the moment. So we're going to be doing some work in the new year to ensure that we're giving that visibility to those activities, really recognising the work that happens within school operations. And I think that's why quite often you will feel like you're asked or contacted at the 11th hour about change and it impacts a little too late, and it's quite often because there hasn't been that understanding that it was going to impact you. So we'll absolutely be working to address that in the new year.
Great, thank you, Catherine. We had a pre-submitted. I'll give it back to you. You're not getting away with it that easy, Thomas.
I didn't want to stand right behind Carol while she was answering your question.
Okay, we had a pre-submitted question. Let's deal with that now. So, regarding organised for success, One University, are there plans to unify the entry points into campus life services, both digitally and physically? And Simon, you're prepared to answer this.
Yes, hello. So, is this working? Yeah. So Simon, Mary West, Executive Director of Student Experience. It's a great question. The answer in a nutshell is yes. As with all these things, it takes a little bit of time. So we've got some foundational work going on at the moment with some of PJ's team and some Pete Connolly, who's Director of Campus Life, just started to look at. So we use three main systems in Campus Life at the moment. So Campus Life, for those that don't know, are kind of specialist staff and student support services. We've got three main systems at the moment. They don't talk to each other. They don't offer a particularly user-friendly interface either. So we're looking at how can we move from three systems at some point in time to one, particularly with a focus on that user interface. The bigger piece then in terms of physical space and kind of entry points is absolutely up there in terms of something we would like to try and do at some point. You can't see him, my dear colleague Barra down on the front here, Director of Estates and Facilities, who has the rather unenviable task of pulling together an infrastructure and estate strategy for the next little while. And this is one of the things we've started some conversations about. It's really difficult to get right. We've got lots of limitations in terms of space and cost and those sorts of things. What I'm really, really keen that we do, though, is not simply replicate what we have done in the past, which is to have spaces for if I take an example, our mental health support service was kind of hidden away somewhere in a remote part of campus, back from a time when people felt less confident going and presenting at a service like that. Equally, we don't want to bunch them all together and sort of badge it up as, come here if you need specialist support. We need to think about how we integrate those services into the kind of wider campus in a much more subtle way, really accessible. People feel confident about going in there as part of their day-to-day kind of role on campus, particularly if you're a student. So there's lots to kind of think about, but it's definitely something that we've got in mind that we want to do over the next little while as part of the strategy.
Okay, great. Thank you, Simon. Shall we move on to the next question? And reminding colleagues online, if you want to ask a question in the room, do raise your electronic hand. Hi.
Hi, Jo Wavish. I work in estates and facilities.
Hi,
it's
Jo.
not really a question so much, it's kind of a comment and an observation. So we spoke about the importance of caring to achieve change. And I just wanted to kind of make the link really, and then we spoke about, leadership and how important that is. And if people are caring in isolation, that's quite limited. What we really need is people feeling engaged and inspired and part of their group and part of the directorate by the leadership that they have and caring within that context, and then you're going to get the change.
Yeah, that's a really powerful point. Thank you, Jo. Would completely agree. Helen?
Should we go for some on Menti?
Oh, yes,
We've
please.
got a few
I
coming
forgot about
through.
Menti.
I've been trying to catch your eye.
Oh, sorry.
We've had loads
I've been
of
too busy
questions.
looking for hands. Sorry, Helen.
We've
Go ahead.
had loads of questions come in on Menti, and the top one at the moment is, how do we protect mental health and well-being with such a big task ahead of us? Many people are worried about burnout.
Ellie, do you want to talk about that? I'm turning to our Executive Director of People on that difficult question, because it's a really important question.
Yeah, I'm looking at you, but it's on Mentimeter, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the colleagues have already touched on it. I think Craig touched on it really well just then around caring for people and watching out for people. We do have some really, really good wellbeing and mental health support accessible within this organisation, the best I've ever seen in all the organisations I've worked in. But I think it's about creating the safe space for people and recognising when some of your colleagues may be suffering or may need some support, because we are going on a journey. We do need, we do have commitments and a delivery, ambitious delivery over the next 10 years. And other colleagues have spoke about how we intend to manage that and break that down into manageable chunks so that we're not putting people in situations of real overwhelm. But we all have, you'll all appreciate from an individual perspective, we all have different levels of what we can cope with and when something becomes too much or unacceptable to us. And I think it's about watching out for each other and making sure that we're supporting people through these times, and as leaders making sure that we are giving that time and space within forums to discuss openly what challenges or what journey they are experiencing at that moment in time.
I think we're okay. That's fine, Thomas. You slip away. I think also we're in a very fortunate place as a university that we are, genuinely we're leading in many things that we do, and we're in a strong place, and we are, for the very most part, in control of our destiny. Now, some dramatic things can happen geopolitically and outside of our control, and if they did, then we would respond to them. But for me, it feels like I feel part of an institution where we feel in control of our destiny. And for me, that's a really important contributor to how we feel and how our well-being and mental health as well, along with everything else that Ellie's talked about. Let's keep going then, if we've got some more, Helen.
So you mentioned about implementation earlier and the implementation conference. This question is specifically about the role of PS in delivering the strategy.
So I think our university is based on a fundamental partnership model between academic and PS colleagues working together seamlessly. That's the key to success. There's a lot of discussion about who does what and how that's done, but what's unarguable is that neither academic colleagues or PS colleagues can deliver and achieve our ambitions in isolation. We can only do it together. And for me, that's at the heart of a one university approach, fundamentally at the heart of a one university approach. And what professional services colleagues bring is professionalism. We bring expertise, capabilities that other colleagues don't have, and they complement each other. And so for me, the exciting part of the conference in January and how we move on with our delivery handbook on how we do things in the future, that approach of doing it genuinely in partnership is the key to success, and being user-centric. Being really clear about our ambitions, as Ellie said, we've set out our strategy, we've got our North Star, we know where we want to get to. We will work on it together in partnership, how we get there, and we'll be really focused about getting there. And that gives us our best chance of success.
Fab.
1, 2 more?
We've got a couple more. So this is around AI. So why are the university encouraging the use of AI given its environmental impact?
PJ.
There was me thinking I was going to be less off for the day. The answer would be, why not? In today's day and age, AI is really everywhere. I've spent the last 2 days literally on AI. From an environmental sustainability perspective, working with our partners, strategic partners, and that's AWS, Microsoft, etc. It's looking at the commitments that they're making to offset the carbon impact. Many of our partners are investing in water and various different power ways of doing that. That's one part. The second part is, from a skills perspective, look around the room in terms of those of you that are using AI, those of you that are being skilled to use AI. We've got an obligation to make sure that our PS and academic staff are skilled and trained to use AI. Specifically when we move over to students, making sure that our students, when they leave here, they're trained for ways to work. For those of you that got trained in IT in the 90s, like myself, it was Excel and Access and the internet there. That moved me on to investment banking. 90% of Fortune 500 companies at the moment are now expecting graduates to use AI, so we've got that obligation.
And I think what we can add to that is help our students and our staff to think about responsible use of AI and ethical use of AI, because AI is with us, whether we like it or not. Okay, one more question maybe. One more in the room? If not, we'll go to, yes, sir.
Sorry, it's just a quick question. It's Lee from procurement. So you mentioned earlier around, having, so much knowledge at the university, and I think that's quite prevalent because I think we've got about 15,000 or just under 15,000 employees.
Ellie tells me we pay 20,000 people.
Okay. It's how do we tap into, that expertise from all those people that we have at the university, and that includes, PS and the academics who do all this research, and how do we consume that? Because it seems a bit wasted at the moment that we don't look to our own research.
I think we've got better at doing it. I've been around a long time, and I do remember a time when trying to work with academic colleagues on projects internally was really challenging because those academic colleagues were focused on other ambitions and other objectives. But I found that academics now are very committed to working with their institutions. And Canvas, I think, has been successful, not least because of academic engagement. Our academic experts, Sarah Dyer, who I gave a shout out to, there's so many other academic colleagues who are working with us in the areas of psychological analysis and how we design. Academic colleagues are working with us in all aspects of our strategy. So we are doing it. We can do more, and we try and build it into the governance of our projects so that it's meaningful. It's not just ad hoc or anecdotal or by accident. It's designed into the way we do things. And you'll see that in the delivery handbook when it's launched later this week. Okay, I'm going to call a halt there and just finish by saying thank you all so much for everything you've done this year. I wish you all a wonderful break over the holidays, doing whatever you do. Also a massive shout out to all of our colleagues who will be working throughout the shutdown. For many colleagues, there is no such thing as a shutdown. So a big shout out to them as well. But thank you all, thank you online, and look forward to seeing you all back refreshed in 2026. Take care, bye-bye.